Alright, so we're gonna multiply 2.5 times all these numbers. So
It's
2.
Is it 25?
2.5 times 10, yeah, you move the decimal once to the right.
Why did it
you
take me
get
so long to
25.
get
What you getting?
2.5 times 20.
45.
So 50.
40,
50. Because it's like 25 times 2.
Oh, that's so cool. Wait, that's actually kind of
And
funny.
add a 0.
And then 2.5 times negative 10, that's just going to be negative 25.
Negative 25.
And then 2.5 times negative 20, that's just going to be negative 50. And we got 2.5 times 0, anything times 0 is 0. And then 2.5 times 1 is itself.
It's one of those.
Isn't that volleyball
So-
season starts soon?
Yeah, not really.
Are you going?
Using column matrix, this is what a row matrix looks like, in case you were wondering.
Row matrix.
Because it's just one row. So in case you were wondering.
Is there a column matrix?
If your scalar is a fraction, your numbers are going to essentially be divided by this guy. So 18 divided by 3 is 6. A third of negative 6 is negative 2. And a third of 12 is 4.
Oh my god, I got 100%.
So pretty. Okay. Now, this is what's called a matrix equation. It's the easy one. There's all kinds of versions of matrix equations. To solve, we're going to solve kind of like we would solve a regular equation, but not completely like that.
Excursion.
We'll start by
Recursion.
simplifying this. So we're going to take these numbers and multiply by the scalar 3.
Do we not just like, okay, because I was literally
X
gonna
is
do like,
representing
Just
a
like-
matrix. So multiply all these by 3. 3. We got 6,
9,
negative 3,
and 12.
9, and 12.
Oh, God.
You got 3.
I feel like I should probably write this down.
That's probably smart, Emma.
Yeah. I'm just gonna make an educated guess and just say that I probably should.
So we have 2x plus a matrix equals another matrix. What would you think to do next?
Subtract the matrix.
Yes. So we're going to take this matrix and subtract it.
They go.
You gotta do one of those
Oh,
subtractions.
that's such like a weird color to have a marker of. Like.
So that's 2 times my matrix x equals, and then we're going to subtract over there. 8 minus 6 is 2. 5 minus negative 3 is 8. 11 minus 9 is 2. And 0 minus 12 is negative 12.
This is like such.
I watched
so much work.
Creed last night, too.
All right.
Yes. Really good.
So
Thank you, Tristan.
when solving matrix equations, there is no division. You do not ever divide. So what we can do is multiply
Oh my
by
God.
the reciprocal.
X is 1.
Okay? Well, x is a lot of things.
Oh. For the first one, it's 1.
Yeah. So we're going to multiply by 1/2 since this is a 2. We got to get rid of the 2 to solve for x. So we're going to take half of everything that's inside that matrix. We get 1, 4, 1, and negative 6. So the matrix X is this square 2 by 2 matrix. 1, 4, 1, negative 6.
What happens if it's like,
Multiply all these by 2 and leave the minus sign, but if you want, you can do the minus sign. It's up to you. I don't do that.
this is the best birthday gift ever.
That's kind
I'm
of
checking the frickin' work on this.
Guys, I couldn't do this.
Give to yourself. Okay, and then for this one, since it's being subtracted from 3y, we're going to add this matrix to the other side. So we're adding negative 2, 10, 14, and 0.
No, Coach Reb, it's 0.06271. Why would I run that?
And so 17 plus negative 2 is
What?
15. 13 plus 10 is 26.
Huh?
What? None of us got these numbers.
23. Negative 7 plus 14 is 7.
So my first
0
one
and
was-
0 is 0.
I literally got 19 for the first one.
Then
That's what I got.
That's
what I got.
That is?
we're going to multiply by a third.
And then, multiply by a third.
Give it a go, guys.
So
yeah, I got it.
y is going to be 5, 23 thirds,
But why did I get
7
minus?
thirds, and 0.
Yes.
Wait, Coach Reb, if I do minus a negative, then I got 19.
Where?
Here.
You're not subtracting this matrix, you're adding it because it was being subtracted here.
See, but I added it too.
subtracted it.
I subtracted and I got the
See,
same
but
stuff
I
except for
got
the first
2,
one.
negative 10, negative 14, 0.
Oh, because I multiplied by negative 2.
I multiplied by positive 2.
Okay, so if you multiply by negative 2, then this becomes plus. this would become positive, negative, negative.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you do it that way,
I just like didn't get the 15.
Oh, so that becomes a plus. I see.
then this would become a plus because you distributed a negative sign,
Oh.
and then
That's
you would
where I-
have
And
to
then you subtract.
That's where I screwed it
I
up.
forgot to leave us decimals.
So then be 17. That would be 15. 13.
So then you'd be 17 minus 2.
Yeah, that's
But the
right.
2 in there is
13
negative,
minus-
is it not?
No, not if you distribute it as a negative 2.
Negative 2.
Listen, there's two ways.
Oh! Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I see what
If
you're
you
talking
choose to distribute, it's not really distributing. If you choose to multiply by negative 2, this becomes 2,
about. Wait, Kathy, what was
negative
the first
14,
number?
negative 10,
It was
and
something
0.
23, 7, and 0.
15,
And that would be
23,
plus.
7, 0.
And if you don't include the negative, then you're subtracting the matrix, negative 2, 14,
0.6.
10, and 0.
0.0625.
Those are your options.
Oh, you mean like rounded like, oh, I know what you're talking
B. So that means we're gonna put matrix A first and matrix B second. What are the dimensions of matrix A?
2 by 2.
And what are the dimensions of matrix B?
2 by 2.
Okay, these are called what?
Square.
Squares.
Square matrices. So this is a 2 by 2, this is a 2 by 2.
Just do it.
The inside dimensions tell us that we're allowed to multiply them together because they're equal. So as long as the inside dimensions, or the columns of matrix 1 times rows by matrix second, as long as those are the second, or they're the same, then we're allowed to multiply them. Then the outside dimensions tell us the answers dimensions. So 2 by 2 is what our answer is gonna be. It's gonna look something like this.
Yeah.
Okay, now, how to multiply?
Just 2.
So I'm gonna show you in like a few steps. So this is gonna be the matrix that is representing my work, and then my answer is gonna go down here. Okay, so we're gonna take the first row, so we always do rows by columns. We're gonna take the first row of the first matrix and the first column of the second matrix, and we're going to multiply the corresponding elements. We're gonna take numbers 1 and 1, like so the first row, first column, first row, first column, we're gonna multiply those together.
Negative 2.
And then we're also gonna take 1 and 0 and multiply those together.
0.
And then we're gonna add those together.
about. Yesterday did we do multiplication too?
So we're taking negative 2 and 0, and we add those together and we get negative 2. And that result is gonna go in the first row, first column, because we took row 1 and column 1, and that is gonna go in row 1, column 1. Then, once we're done with like this column, we're gonna go to the next one. So we're still gonna use row 1, but now we're gonna use column 2. And we're gonna do the same idea. So we're gonna take 2 times 3, and then 1 times 4. And then we'll add those together. So 2 times 3 is 6, 4 times 1 is 4, 6 plus 4 is 10. That's gonna go in row 1, column 2, because we took row 1 and column 2.
So now as you take
Now,
row.
one note, just a little note, you're always taking rows from the first matrix and columns from the second matrix. You never look at the columns of the first matrix or the rows of the second. It's always rows, columns. You don't mix and match. So now,
You go from top to bottom, left to right, right?
no, other way around. Left to right, top to bottom.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm thinking of in this situation, like, so because you do 2 and 1, which is on the top, and then times left and right.
Left
and
to
then,
right, top to bottom. So now we're gonna go to row 2.
Huh?
Always start with rows. And then you're gonna start with column 1. You're gonna multiply. Negative 3 times negative 1. And then 0 times 0. So this is positive 3, 0, add them together, you get 3. Okay, so we did row 2 with the first column. Now we're gonna move on to the next column. Same row, we're gonna do negative 3 times 3, and then 0 times 4. This is negative 9, this is 0, we're gonna get negative 9. And this is my answer, down there. I'll have to
I
write
feel like
these.
this just takes like practice.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, it's like kinda confusing
Like
the
it's
first
like
time.
kind of like memorization.
So essentially what we're doing is we are taking every row in the first matrix and multiplying it kind of by every column in the second matrix, but in that certain way. So you go meh, meh. Sometimes if you have more rows and more columns, you have to do like the multiplication part more times. But you're taking every element of this row, every element of this column, and you multiply them and they pair up like 1, 2. Sometimes there's 3 rows and 3 columns, you have to go like 1, 2, 3. You take those products and you add them together and they take up the place of one spot in your answer. So depending on how many rows and columns and all of that, you know, you might have to do it more times, you might have to do it fewer times, but the inside dimensions are what tell us, yay, we can do this, and then the outside dimensions tell us what our answer is gonna look like. So I always start with determining what the dimensions of my answer are gonna be like, because then I know what to expect. If you don't know what to expect, it's kinda, sometimes it can be confusing like where to put them, especially when these matrices get bigger. 2x2s are like easier because they're smaller. But if I take like these guys or those guys, it's not as easy because there's more numbers to worry about. Times C times D. What are the dimensions of this?
2 by 3.
And what are the dimensions of this?
3 by 2.
Are we allowed to multiply these?
Yes.
In this order?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is C, this is D. As long as these are the same, we're good.
So now how do you
The
find
answer is gonna be a what?
I don't know.
2 by
A 2 by 2. That's our answer, the outside dimensions.
Oh, right. I was like, wait, how did you find that?
Okay, so I'm just gonna rewrite these next to each other.
So it's C times D.
So this is C
Yes.
times D. Okay, we should expect a 2 by 2. I'm gonna show work, and then my answer's gonna go down here.
2 by 2.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Why is this
Figured it'd
one?
be a 3 by 3.
So even though there's more elements in there, the first row, first column, that's where we're gonna pair them up 1, 2, 3. So we're pairing them up 1, 2, 3. We're gonna find each of those products and then the sum. So 4 times 2 plus negative 1 times 1 plus
10 times 0.
10 times 0.
Do I have to write out like times what, or can I just write like the number? Do you know what I'm saying? Like if it's 4
you
times
write
2.
this out, I can find your mistakes. People often make
But if it's like
mistakes.
4 times 2, can I write 8?
But if you make a mistake, I'm not gonna know where 8 came from. That's the issue.
Okay.
And it makes it difficult for me to grade.
Well, what I'm doing it now, I'm gonna do because I ran out of space.
So this is 0, this is negative 1, this is 8, you get 7. Okay, so we did first row, let's do the second column with that row.
Be negative 3 times 0.
So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, and then find the sum.
8,
So 2
negative
times
1,
negative 5.
7.
Negative 10 times 8. You're 7.
Negative 1 times 2.
Yeah, that's 7.
Oh, I thought she
And
said
then
2
10 times negative
5,
2.
and you're like 7.
So this is negative 10 plus negative 2 plus negative 20. That's gonna be negative 32.
This is so bad. I always like don't leave myself enough space.
Yeah, that's kinda.
Yeah, me too.
And then like in my notes it's like crap and then,
Jasmine, it's okay. Don't worry.
Are you using a pencil?
no.
Oh, well, that's why. Now, once we have the whole first row filled out for our answer, we're done with that first row. We don't need to use it again.
I'm confused on how we. Oh.
But we have another row of stuff. So we're
Yeah.
gonna take our second row and our first column again.
So negative 3 times
So
4.
negative 3 times 4 plus
0 times
0
0.
times 1
And then
plus
1 times 0.
1 times 0. Okay, so 0, 0, this is negative 12.
Negative 3 times.
next one is
So we
15.
got like one more. We have -3 times -5. We have 0 times 2.
I think it's 13. We did 13.
And then we get
Yes.
1 times -2.
I got 15.
I got 13.
So this
Oh.
is positive
Yes, 13.
15, this is -2, this is nothing.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's 13. Sorry, I wrote 0 instead of -2.
Now, we are gonna take row 1 and column 1 and find the product of 4 and 2, that's 8, and then -5 and -3, that's 15, and then we add them together. That's gonna go in row 1, column 1 of your answer, and your answer should be a 3 by 3. Then we're gonna take the same row, but column 2. Find the product of 4 and -1, and the product of -5 and 0. Add the sum. That's gonna go first row, second column. We go row 1, column 3. 4 times 10 is 40. -5 times 1 is -5. 40 and -5 make 35. Once the first row of our answer is filled in, we don't need the first row anymore, so we're done with the first row, moving on to row 2. And then we're gonna repeat the columns. So row 2 with column 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times -3 is -6. Add them together, you get -4.
Intro. So when you do it, I wrote like the row 1 and column 1. I did it like this way.
So you put them in the wrong places.
Like I have all my I have 23.
You have the numbers there just in the wrong spot.
I have 23, -4, and then 35.
I didn't
You just
like.
gotta
this-
pay attention
I
to
did
where you're
like
putting
this
them.
way.
So like it has to go in that order.
Yeah, it has to go in that order.
I did it like 4 and -5 times 2 and -3 and 1 and 2 times 2 and -3 and 6. I just went like up and down.
Don't go in the wrong order.
Don't do that.
But I got the same thing though.
Yeah, you did, but this time,
Doesn't matter.
you're gonna get confused.
Yeah, she just said it matters.
It's like when you FOIL. You go in
Yeah.
that order for a reason, because it helps you remember what to do. If you do FLIO, are you gonna remember? It's gonna get confusing.
Floyd.
So here we're gonna do 1 and -1, that's gonna be -1, 2 and 0, that's gonna be 0, and we get -1. Then we got second row, last column, 1 times 10 is 10, 2 times 1 is 2, it's gonna be 12. Me. So,
You've done
once we
it.
have everything in our row 2 of our answer, we're done with row 2. Move on to row 3 and repeat the columns. So row 3, we have 0 times 2 is 0, -3 times -2 is 6, add them together, and we get 6. Row 3, column 2, 0 and -1, 0, -2 times 0 is also 0, add 0 plus 0, you get 0. And one more, last column, 0 times 10 is 0, -2 times 1 is -2, add them together, and you get -2.
Very cool.
That's what you should get. Question to our matrices. This is a table displaying the number of touchdowns, field goals, safeties, and points after touchdown that were scored in a particular game. That was the highest scoring game, but then it changed, and I just didn't update it, like, cause you know our book's old, and I stole this problem from the book, and it's old, and it's changed, cause things change, but anyhow. So, what we're gonna try to figure out is, the final score of the game. We're gonna arrange these numbers into a matrix strategically. In general, if you have touchdowns, field goals, safeties, and points after touchdowns, yeah, that's the right plural. In order to see how many total points we got, if we got 10 touchdowns, though that's not worth 10 points, that's worth 10 times 6 points, right? And then if we had 1 field goal, that's it, 1 field goal. It's not worth 1 point, it's worth 1 times 3 points. There were no safeties, but that would be 0 times 2 points. And then 9 points after the touchdown, those are worth 1 point each, so that's 9 times 1 points. So we need to figure out how to multiply all the numbers in this row by all the numbers in this row. And then we're gonna have to do it again with all of these guys to see what New York's score was. Now, it's not just gonna be a bunch of rows, that doesn't make sense. Because when we multiply matrices, remember, we take the rows and we multiply by columns. So if we wanna multiply all of these numbers by all of these numbers will have to be in a row. But these numbers would have to be in a column in order for us to multiply that way. So I want to put 10, 1, 0, and 9 in a row. I want them to get multiplied by 6, 3, 2, and 1. So that I can do 10 times 6, 1 times 3, 0 times 2, and 9 times 1.
And do the same thing for the other team.
I want to do the same thing for the other team. Now, if I put it in this order, so I have, this is a 2 by 4, and this is a 4 by 1. So if I put it in this order, are we allowed to multiply them like this?
Yeah, but not in the
Yeah,
order.
because 4 and 4.
Maybe a 2 by 1.
And then our answer would be a 2 by 1. So if we have a 2 by 1, that's gonna show us final score of Washington, final score of New York. That's what we want, right? Yeah, so we're finding a total. So this is like matrix multiplication finds you sums, not just like this thing times this thing, finds you the sum of multiple products. Now, we're gonna do this on our calculator, again, just to practice. So take out your calculator and create a 2 by 4. Stick these guys in there, and then create a 4 by 1. Stick those guys in there. To create a matrix, we're gonna hit the button that's next to the book. We're gonna pick this one, and we want a 2 by 4. So I'm gonna delete this, put 2, hit tab, delete this, put 4, and then enter. And then we're gonna type in the numbers. 10,
10, 1, 0, 9,
I'm gonna put
6,
in,
0, 0, 5.
and we're gonna hit times outside the multiplication, or outside the matrix, and put in another matrix. This one's a 4 by 1. So just a column matrix of how many points each type of scoring is worth. Ta-da!
So will it tell us whether to use a calculator or not?
I just say that on the notes because I wanted us to practice.
Like on a test,
It'll
we'll
say
have
like
it.
show work if I want you to show work. And if it doesn't say show work, then you don't have to show work.